Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast. It's Scott Bischoff. We are going to talk about the Lions week 9, I think. Yeah, it's week 9 matchup at home against the Green Bay Packers. Let's keep this train rolling in a positive direction, because this is going to be the hard part of this season, because we're not quite to draft season yet. We are fully, but what I'm saying is that we're not quite there yet as far as like having this season mainly behind us with things to look forward to. So there's going to be some shit to contend with as we go through the next month to 6 weeks. But draft season is fully here, which makes, people like me, I'm not from a Lions perspective, but because they're losing and that sucks. But draft season's fun, and it's fun because there's always something fun to look forward to. And that fun to look forward to is arguing and screaming and fighting about prospects. That'll be fun. We'll do that. In the meantime, we do have a matchup at home against the Packers this weekend, and we're going to break that down, offense, defense, all the things, and maybe a trade topic here coming at you shortly. So stay tuned. It's coming right at you. We all have to talk to each other and be honest with each other about our feelings. And yes, I am talking about the Lions. I know it's ridiculous where they are. And it's a shitty place to be as a fan, with them being 1-6 and losing some of the games the way they are losing, and having a coach fired. And we'll get into the TJ Hockenson trade, and just having some of the negativity that just feels like it can be a draining thing. Surrounded by some things that we should be positive about, we should be happy about, we should be optimistic about in glimpses. Their offense looked pretty good in the second half here we go. Their offense looked really good in the first half against Miami. I don't know if you guys watched the game preview for last week. I did think that the Lions would score points. I did think that it was going to be almost impossible for the Lions to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and to do it effectively enough that they could hold them in for long stretches. I just didn't think that was a possibility. So the only way that game really had to play out was in my mind going in, was Lions playing catch up, but Dolphins not really pressuring Goff and him feeling a little more comfortable. And that's a little bit of where it's going to be the rest of the season is, if he's comfortable, the Lions can produce. If he's not comfortable, the Lions offense will get a little bit stagnant. They'll look ugly at times. We saw all those things. I just expected it to go in a different order. The Lions looked great in the first half on offense, but so it's just losing these games the way they're losing, and staying in games as long as they are, and then having it just kind of fall apart at the end. It just leaves there's a sour taste. It's just kind of we want things to be different than that. So going forward, we have a matchup of a team that I don't think anybody in the city likes, and a quarterback on the opposing team that I don't think anybody is all that fond of. It's going to be this is going to be another game where this is going to be a tough matchup. It's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a very effective quarterback. They have not played great this year. They have. It looks like it's almost the end of the road for the Aaron Rodgers led Packers, and I hesitate to say that because I know what that means. There is still life there. It's just from a talent perspective, their offensive line doesn't look to be playing all that great. They're not running the ball. Last week, Aaron Jones looked really good last week, but before that, it was just a little bit like a little lifeless. And A.J. Dillon is not at all what I thought he would be. And as a side note, just a side note, he's one of the players that I got very wrong from a fantasy standpoint this year, because I do some fantasy stuff for football guys. And but just to put myself out there on Front Street, if we were to go over the things that I got wrong this year, HBO could produce like a 10-season Game of Thrones style, this is all the shit this guy got wrong in 1 year stuff. AJ Dillon is one of the guys I got wrong a bunch. There's a whole slew of other dudes too. So I don't know why I'm off on a tangent, but here we go. So we're going to declare. Let's talk about TJ Hockenson before we get into the breakdown of the of this week. So I don't think it's a secret. I was not a fan at all of the pick. You can go back in time and just Google Scott Bischoff, TJ Hockenson Lions, and it'll tell you what I think about why I didn't think he was a good fit for the team at the time they drafted him. Bob Quinn and those guys thought he was going to come in and be an elite tight end from the first day he stepped into the building and help them win games in year one, which is for a traditional tight end who you're asking to both run routes and block. It's almost unheard of for a player to do something. It's almost laughable to think that was going to happen. And that's why I didn't think they were a great match. There was a lot of other stuff too. I never viewed Hockenson as, I remember there's a Metallica song from a way back called Harvester of Sorrow. And somebody referred to him as a blocker, as a harvester of sorrow at the line of scrimmage. And I giggled at it because it paints such a perfect picture of what you would really want a dominant inline blocking tight end to be. But that's just not who Hockenson was. If you threw on film and you looked at him, blocking dudes against Indiana or, Rutgers or whatever, there were moments where he did look really, really good. But then when you looked at him, specifically the Mississippi State film with him as I think he was a junior, where they were asking him to come across the formation and pick up Montez Sweat, who was pass rushing, and he was just unable to do it. And it's like, those are the blocks that he's going to be asked to make at the NFL level, and he has a really hard time staying, locked on and really being an effective blocker. So I just didn't view him the way others did. And I saw a really good route runner, a great athlete, physical guy. I saw all those things. I just didn't think he was that can't miss prospect that if he doesn't give you a bunch catching the ball, he's going to be a dominant blocker. I never viewed him that way. So there is some history. You can find it if you want to read it. So, I'm not, bullshitting here, but so just understand that I'm coming this from a standpoint of not liking the pick and not necessarily appreciating the player all that much, even while he's been here. I mean, there have been moments where he's looked great, but there have been moments where he's looked completely disinterested and very, very inconsistent, both as a blocker and as a receiver. You can look at this year. Like, there were multiple games where they were missing significant weapons. And it's just like you're still not emerging as a premium weapon when you should be. I think there's some information out there. I'll just sum it up like this. I don't think there was any understanding on both parties that TJ Hockenson wanted to be here anymore. I think it's pretty clear that he was never going to re-sign here long term, that his desires were to be elsewhere and paid like a premium, elite tight end in the NFL. And to me, he's not that. So there's that. And I don't think he was. I think he was kind of mailing it in during practices. There were moments, from what I understand, that it was obvious to everybody around that he just wasn't happy here and didn't want to be here. I think it was. I'm sure they talked, and I'm sure that it was pretty. Between Holmes and Campbell and Hockenson, I'm sure they knew that he didn't want to be here. So the thing that I find fascinating and most hopeful about all this, amidst this 1-6 season, you have a group of decision makers who look back into the recent past with the Lions and see what a previous administration did, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. Previous group of decision makers made a giant mistake with a tight end and Eric Ebron. They didn't want to bring Ebron back for his 5th year. They thought that they could trade him after the season and get more for him, or at least get something for him then. But at that point in time, it was already out in the open. It was well known that he was not returning to Detroit. And the Lions at that point had no leverage to make any deals happen at all. So they cut him. This current group of decision makers, Brad Holmes and whoever is involved in these things, super smart what they do here, because they look back into the past to learn the lesson of the previous group, which is don't run the string out so long that you no longer have leverage to be able to trade him. The last opportunity that the Lions had to really trade Hockenson was trade deadline this year. And, if they let this linger into the offseason and he made it known that, yeah, they have their 5th year option, but I really don't want to be there anymore. I'd like to be, I'm asking for a trade. The Lions would have got nothing or very, very little. As it stands, they got a 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick. Yes, they're giving up a 4th this year and a conditional 4th, but to me the 4ths don't matter all that. I mean, they matter, but it's not the relevant piece to what you've done. You've traded a player who needs to be paid to an interdivision rival. I kind of like that sort of mentality because I don't view Hockenson as how he views himself. So whatever that's worth. I don't think he's a premium elite player on the level of, say, the Travis Kelce's or Mark Andrews, or guys like that. So Minnesota has traded for a half a season of Hockenson, and then they have the opportunity to pay him. Good luck. It's reported that he's going to want to be paid in the $13 to $15 million a year range. And I would just ask Lions fans: would you have wanted the Lions to extend what you know from Hockenson and the production you see? Are you cool? Would you be cool with them paying him that kind of money, knowing that he didn't want to be here? And I think the answer has to be no. So that's kind of it from the Hockenson side of things. It would have been great if they could have got a 1st round pick, but that's not the market. So you got a 2nd and a 3rd. The 2nd is in this coming draft. It gives them a bunch of early picks. I want to say they're gonna have 5 in the top 60, 5 in the top 70, depending on. Right now it's 5 in the top 65 because they have the first pick. It might even be 5 in the top 64, but that's math that I can't do right now because whatever. Because I think Miami lost a pick. So there's going to be 31 first-round picks and 32. Could be 5 in the first 64. You just saw the lights-out brain activity happening in real time. I'm sure you're very impressed. Okay, so that's it with Hockenson. Just in a nutshell, didn't want to be here. Made it known he didn't want to be here. Wants to be overpaid for what he is as a player. And it just doesn't time up right for where the Lions are. And I think it's super impressive that they looked just a few years back to see this is the mistake this previous group made, and we're not going to make that mistake. So we're trading him now. And I think when you look at Brad Holmes' comments about, we would have done this deal even if our record was reversed, I think that's what he's telling you, is that we know the player doesn't want to be here. We know we can't pay him what he wants. There's a lot of things going in the direction of he's not going to be here. and the time to trade him dries up very quickly, and the time is now. So that's the way I'm reading into that. That's for that. And if anybody wants to ask questions or debate that, that's fine. We can talk about it. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just a vibe I have on it. I do know that it was pretty widely known down there that he did not want to be here. So, okay, week 9, Green Bay at home. The Packers are 3.5-point favorites here in Detroit. Game total is 49. The implied total for Green Bay is 26.25 points, and for Detroit's 22.75 points. Okay, on offense, the Lions are tied for 4th in the NFL. They are running for 5.2 yards per carry. Green Bay is running for 4.9 yards per carry. They're tied for 10th. Rushing touchdowns. The Detroit Lions have 9 rushing touchdowns, which is tied for 6th in the NFL. Green Bay has 3, which is interesting. I would think this is where there's some disappointment with the Packers offense, because that's a really low total. They are tied for 29th. 3 total rushing touchdowns for the Packers this year. Passing, the Lions are averaging 7.6 yards per attempt, which is 10th in the NFL. Green Bay is averaging 6.6 yards per attempt, which is tied for 23rd in the NFL. So again, a little suppressed there on the Green Bay side of things. Passing touchdowns, Detroit has 12, which is tied for 10th in the NFL. Green Bay has 13, which is tied. There's your Aaron Rodgers factor. Green Bay has 13, which is tied for 7th. 13 total passing touchdowns for Rodgers this year. Okay, on defense, this is rushing yards allowed. Detroit allows 5.1 yards per carry, which is good for 28th in the NFL. So they are coming down. They were 32nd like 3 weeks ago. So we're seeing a little move. That's good. It's a joke. Green Bay is allowing 4.9 yards per carry, which is tied for 26th. As far as rushing touchdowns allowed, Detroit has given up 13, which is tied for 30th, and Green Bay has given up 8, which is tied for 19th. So you can run on these teams in the red zone. I think we'll see some of that. Passing touchdown or passing yardage allowed, the Lions are allowing 8.1 yards per attempt, which is the worst team in the NFL. Green Bay is giving up 6.7 yards per attempt, which is tied for 17th. Detroit has given up 12 passing touchdowns total, which is tied for 23rd. Green Bay has given up 8, which is tied for 6th total in the NFL. Okay, so now this is a point of emphasis for us the last couple of weeks, and I think it'll continue to be just because of the pressure being a problem for Jared Goff thing. The Lions have given up 13 sacks, which is tied for 6th in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers have given up 17, which is tied for 12th in the NFL. Now, this number of sacks generated, okay? So the Detroit Lions defense has generated 11 total sacks in the 2022 season, which is good for 31st in the NFL. There's only one team that has fewer sacks than the Lions. Green Bay has 17, which is in the middle of the pack. They're tied for 18th. So that's kind of where the pressure numbers lie. I would say you have Green Bay giving up some pressures, but also generating pressure too. Rashawn Gary's a problem. He just is. So that's the numbers. That's kind of where the numbers are for this matchup. It's interesting, this one. This one's not as easy to tell. Like the Miami matchup was going to be, that was not all that difficult thing to figure out. It's like you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle. What are you going to do? You can try to press those guys and bracket somebody over the top, but you're still going to get beat. You're still going to give up big plays. It's just how it is. So this one's going to be interesting. This is Aaron Rodgers is going to do Aaron Rodgers things until he's no longer in the NFL. We should expect my blood pressure is going to go to 1,000,000,000,000 here in a second, but should expect the officials to give him the benefit of the doubt in just about every way possible, which is so maddening. And I know that sounds like excuse making, bailing out the Lions for maybe their poor play because Aaron Rodgers is petitioning the officials for calls, but it happens. And we've seen it consistently happen that the things go on between these two teams, and whether it's hands to the face or phantom holding call, whatever. There's a lot of that. So I'm preparing for that. Just trying to get an understanding of how the offense can go and how the defense can handle themselves on both sides of the ball this week. So I do think the Lions can run on the Packers. I don't know that DeAndre Swift is going to play. I don't know that Taylor Decker is going to play. It sounds like he came up. So this being recorded Thursday. It sounds like there's a back injury for Decker that maybe even happened on Thursday. So there's some unknown there. It sounds like Penei Sewell is in the process of adding a family member of having a baby. So he missed practice. Now I don't know what his status is for Sunday. I don't know what Decker's status is for Sunday. DeAndre Swift did not practice or practiced in a limited fashion. Changes their offense. You're missing receivers. You have no Hockenson this week, and then it's one of the things that would be really interesting to see how it plays out on offense is what does James Mitchell look like from the rookie from Virginia Tech. I find I'm not surprised that they ran the route they ran for him last week, and he looked the way he looked. Brock Wright, I think, is a little better blocker than Hockenson, so I don't think you're going to miss all that much from that side of things, but you are going to miss the explosiveness that Hockenson did offer. We'll see what happens with their offense. Last thing on this, I mean, it all ties together, but I do think that them moving away from Hockenson tells me that Jameson Williams is close to returning. And they're trying to clear they're trying to clear it for him so they can feature him. That's going to take a little time for them to get to the point where they do feature him. But that's kind of what I thought was, okay, Williams is closer than Williams is a couple weeks away. So expecting the Lions to try to run the ball and utilize play action and get the ball to, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has a chance to be as productive a player in the back half of the season as almost anybody. Sorry. So, running the ball effectively, getting the ball out early, quickly, getting some yards after catch, doing everything they can to protect Goff, but not putting Goff in a situation that we've seen multiple times this year where when he's uncomfortable, when he's pressured, you see happy feet, you see dangerous throws, you see turnovers, you see fumbles, you see a quarterback who's just not capable of playing under pressure. If the Lions can keep him somewhat upright and comfortable, they should be okay in this game from an offensive standpoint. But we just talked about we talked about Decker potentially being out and Penei Sewell missing practice. So there's some unknown with what their offense could be. But I don't think that I just don't see Green Bay's defense as stout enough to be able to stop the Lions' running attack if the Lions fully commit to running the ball. I think the Lions can throw on them. I don't know that they're going to throw it all over the place on them, but I think they can, especially short to intermediate and then into the middle of the field is where I would expect the Lions to exploit them. But that's kind of where it is on offense. And I know there's not a lot that I got to there, but it's running the ball efficiently and effectively, and then throwing the ball short to intermediate, getting the ball out quick, getting in rhythm and tempo, and just kind of staying there. So that's kind of what I hope for the Lions on offense. On defense, I do not. I know Aaron Jones had a good game last week, but the Packers have not looked the same this year. They have looked out of sorts in every way. Now I know the Lions have not done a good job on defense either, but this is a matchup where if you can limit what the Packers do running the ball and force Aaron Rodgers to make plays to his weapons, and his weapons are really like a bit of a banged up Allen Lazard and Robert Tonyan. There's other weapons too. Romeo Doubs, the rookie. If you do a good job of defending the run and get them into bad down and distance, I think you can do some things to get Rodgers pressured and uncomfortable. Rodgers has thrown 13 touchdown passes, so it's not like he's flailing in that regard. But they're not throwing the ball efficiently or effectively like they have in the past. They're not running the ball efficiently and effectively like they have in the past. They're just not. So on offense, there's really not. It's not like last week where you were legit fearful of what Miami was doing on offense and how that was going to be a problem going forward. I don't feel that way this week, but it is the Packers, so there's that. It's like it's a dragon until you slay the dragon. The dragon's always dangerous. So it would be wonderful to see Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Pascal and some of these other guys get into a rhythm and get some pressure on Rodgers, because he will make mistakes under pressure, under significant pressure. He will. He will also blame everybody else too. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't see their offense as being dangerous like I thought it would be running the ball. Now, again, Aaron Jones had a big week last week, and maybe they figured something out. I don't know. I just know that it's not a matchup that I fear, both offensively or defensively. I think that this could potentially. I know the point total here is 49. Last week I would have been screaming to play the over just because it felt like there was no way that it could stay under what the total was. This one, I'm not sure if it's going to get to the total. I would think that both teams are going to want to try to establish the run, which is it's a slower pace of play, and there's not going to be as many points scored, but it's a way of controlling. Of being in control of the outcome. So pressure and turnovers is going to be a big deal in this game too. I know the Lions have only gotten 11 sacks, but if you can dial that up and create some things, some blitzes, not necessarily conventional pressure, but other ways of bringing pressure, that'll be huge. And then keeping, being safe with the ball, not turning over the football. Maybe the Lions get a turnover or two in this game, and that changes things. But they're going to need something like that to win this game, because I think on a neutral field the Packers are probably a touchdown favorite over what the Lions are. But like I said, I just don't see either side, either Green Bay's offense or defense, being such a problem that the Lions can't figure out ways to move the ball and put themselves in a decent position to have a chance in this game. I don't see the Lions. I think the Lions should be able to run the ball on Green Bay's defense, which may put them in a position to be, efficient throwing the ball short to intermediate, like we talked about. And that's just kind of where this matchup is. It feels like this could be like a 27-20 kind of a final, 24-20, something like that, where it's a tight game like these games have been. It'd be nice to see the Lions finish the right way in some of these games. This would be a good one for them to finish, because no offense to Green Bay, if you beat Green Bay and they go to 3-6, and the Minnesota Vikings are potentially 7-1, you've almost doomed. You've almost taken away their chance to win the division and put them in wild card contention with a bunch of other teams that they may not hang with. And it'd be nice to no offense, but it'd be nice to do that to the Packers. I know you know what I'm talking about. So that's kind of where it is. Not a lot to be afraid of in this matchup. Just what feels like a bit of a grinded out affair. Lots of running, especially from the Lions. Lots of get the ball out quick. You can't hang Goff back in the pocket for a long time. We're close to making a video where we talk about Goff and potential Goff replacements. I know we don't want to do that yet, but it's time. You can't. I'm of the mind that you can't have a quarterback who needs everything perfect around him to give you a chance to win games. Now this year, there've only been a couple of moments this year where I thought, yeah, he's limiting them. He's limiting them on offense to the point where they have no chance. Dallas was that game where it just wasn't happening, and he played in a manner that you should almost find unacceptable. But for where they are, and I know it's way too soon because there's a bunch of time left here, but currently they have the first pick, and I would say that there's going to be people who are going to be screaming for C.J. Stroud, and there's going to be people who want Bryce Young, and then there will be people who want maybe Hendon Hooker or Will Levis. It's too soon to really pick one of those players yet, but it's not too soon to start talking about the things that each of those guys does well, or maybe the things that they don't do well and how that would work here. Just as a general idea, the idea of Bryce Young throwing passes to Jamison Williams kind of gets me going a little bit. I mean, I would be excited by that. That means you're picking first, which means we got a long way to go with these. But that's where we are for this week. So this is the matchup, the preview of Green Bay at home. Kind of what I see as a low scoring game. It'll be a fun game to watch because there'll be a lot of hopefully effective running of the football by the Lions and the power attack. And we'll see what they can do to prevent Green Bay from scoring. And doing that's always fun because you get the Rodgers blow-ups and, firing iPads all over the place. So let's hope we see some of that. So that's it for Week 9. We'll catch you guys next week for Week 10. Once I get the approval from Chris, we may be starting up a draft video. Those are going to be strange because right now there's so much to talk about. So maybe it'll just be this is the position we can talk about. So where the Lions are with that position. These are the players that they could choose from in certain areas of the draft. So, but we'll get that going. I think that's coming sooner rather than later because whether we want to believe it or not, it is draft season in Detroit. Sadly, it is. But, it'll be fun for us as we move through the process. And, so there we go. That's the preview for Week 9. I will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.